Why do most men live and die in financial bondage? Not because they lack intelligence, not because opportunities don't exist, but because they carry within themselves an invisible program installed before they could think, running silently in the background of every decision, sabotaging every attempt at wealth. Machiavelli understood that power belongs to those who see reality clearly, not as they wish it to be. And the reality is this: you are not broke because of your bank account. You are broke because of your mind. Throughout this video, we will not give you tips or shortcuts or motivational speeches that fade by morning. We will descend into the philosophical depths of wealth and poverty, extracting from Machiavelli's understanding of power a practical manual for financial liberation. You will learn why you are broke, what keeps you broke, and most importantly, how to architect a complete transformation of your financial reality. This knowledge is dangerous because once you possess it, you can no longer hide behind comfortable lies. You will see yourself and your choices with perfect clarity, and that clarity will demand action. Prepare yourself, because the person who finishes this video will not be the same person who started it. Let me ask you something that will unsettle you. What if poverty has nothing to do with money? Consider this carefully before dismissing it. A poor man who wins $10 million is statistically likely to be poor again within 5 years. A wealthy man who loses everything can rebuild his fortune within a decade. The difference is not luck. The difference is programming. Poverty is a mental operating system, and until you uninstall it and replace it with the operating system of wealth, every dollar you touch will evaporate like water in the desert sun. When you were young, before you understood what money was, you learned what kind of person has money and what kind of person doesn't. If you grew up in scarcity, you learned that people like you don't have wealth. You learned that money is scarce, hard to get, and easy to lose. You learned that rich people are either lucky, corrupt, or born into privilege. You learned that wanting more is greedy and that poverty builds character. These lessons were not taught in classrooms. They were absorbed through observation, through the stress in your parents' voices, when bills arrived, through the shame of wearing worn clothes, through 1,000 small moments that programmed your subconscious with a single message: you are not the kind of person who has money. This is what Machiavelli understood about human nature. We are not rational creatures making conscious choices. We are pattern-following animals executing programs installed by our environment. And the most dangerous part is that these programs feel like truth. They feel like your personality, your values, your identity. The poor man doesn't think, "I have poverty programming." He thinks, "I'm just not good with money," or "I'm more spiritual than materialistic," or "money doesn't matter to me." But these thoughts are not insights. They are the program defending itself from being uninstalled. The first step to wealth is recognizing that every thought you have about money, every feeling, every reaction, every decision is potentially corrupted by this program. And if you want different results, you must question everything you believe. Machiavelli wrote that men judge more by their eyes than by their hands, because everyone can see but few can feel. Most people see their poverty but cannot feel the invisible chains of their programming. Today, you will feel them, and then you will break them. Now, let us examine what money actually is and what it does, because the poor, the middle class, and the rich have completely different relationships with money, and your relationship determines your destination. For the poor person, money is a desperate sprint between obligations. Money arrives through labor, stays briefly, and immediately transfers to survival, rent, utilities, food, debt payments. The poor person is a biological pump in the economic system, transferring wealth from their labor to their landlord, their creditors, their utility companies. They work not to build, but to prevent collapse, and this is not a temporary situation waiting to improve. This is the permanent state, unless the programming changes. The poor person lives in a constant state of financial emergency, and emergency thinking prevents strategic thinking. You cannot plan for wealth when you're drowning. You can only gasp for the next breath. This is why Machiavelli observed that poverty makes men desperate, and desperation makes them dangerous to themselves. The poor make short-term decisions because they have no long-term options. They buy cheap products that break quickly because they cannot afford quality. They pay more interest on debt because they have no credit. They lose opportunities because they cannot invest. Poverty is expensive. And it compounds, just like wealth compounds, but in the opposite direction, pulling you deeper into the hole with each passing year. For the middle-class person, money is the fuel for performance. They earn more than the poor, sometimes significantly more. But they are not free. They are trapped in a different cage, the cage of appearances and consumption. The middle class confuses income with wealth and spending with success. They buy the house in the good neighborhood, not because they can afford it, but because they can get approved for the mortgage. They buy the car that signals status, financed over 7 years. They take the vacation they cannot afford, charged to credit cards they tell themselves they'll pay off soon. They are performing wealth while accumulating debt. Machiavelli would recognize this immediately as the weakness of those who care more about appearing powerful than being powerful. The middle class makes more money than the poor, but often has less financial security because their obligations scale with their income. They earn $50,000, they spend $52,000. They earn $80,000, they spend $85,000. The gap never closes because they do not understand that wealth is not what you earn, but what you keep and multiply. They are running on a treadmill set slightly faster than they can sustain, and they call this success. But it is just a more comfortable form of poverty, one job loss away from collapse. For the wealthy person, money is a tool, a seed, a soldier in an army. Money arrives and they ask one question: how can this dollar create more dollars? They do not see money as something to spend or even save. They see it as potential energy waiting to be deployed strategically. They invest in assets that produce income. They build businesses that generate wealth while they sleep. They acquire skills that increase their earning power. They understand leverage, using other people's time, money, and resources to multiply their own efforts. They think in systems and percentages and compound growth. This is the fundamental difference that explains everything. The poor transfer money, the middle class consume money, the rich multiply money. And your financial destiny is determined not by how much you make, but by which of these three relationships you have with every dollar that enters your life. So examine yourself honestly right now. What do you do when money arrives? Do you immediately transfer it to obligations? Do you spend it to maintain an image? Or do you deploy it strategically to create more money? Your answer reveals your programming and predicts your future. But knowledge alone changes nothing. You can understand your programming intellectually and still be controlled by it emotionally. This is where we must go deeper, into territory that will disturb you, into the raw emotional power that actually creates change, hatred. You have been told that positive thinking creates wealth, that gratitude and abundance mindset and visualization will attract money into your life. This is a comfortable lie sold to people who have never truly been desperate. Positive thinking is pleasant, but weak. It evaporates the moment reality pushes back. What you need is not love for wealth, but hatred for poverty, visceral, consuming, relentless hatred for the condition you're in and the person you've been. Machiavelli understood that men are moved more by fear of loss than hope of gain. A prince who wishes to maintain power must ensure his subjects fear the consequences of betrayal more than they love the rewards of loyalty. The same psychology applies to your internal world. You will not escape poverty because you daydream about being rich. You will escape poverty when remaining poor becomes more painful than the discomfort of change. Think about the times in your life when you changed most dramatically. When you finally left the toxic relationship, was it Because you visualized a better partner? No, it was because staying became unbearable. When you finally quit the soul-destroying job, was it because you loved your new career? No. It was because you hated your current situation more than you feared the unknown. Real transformation comes not from inspiration, but from reaching a threshold of disgust so intense that staying where you are is no longer an option your nervous system will accept. This is why I want you to cultivate hatred, not scattered anger at circumstances, but focused hatred aimed at poverty itself and at the part of you that accepts it. Hatred for the version of yourself that makes excuses. Hatred for the comfort that keeps you mediocre. Hatred for the programming that tells you to accept less. This hatred is not negative. It is fuel. It is the fire that burns away weakness and forges strength. Let me tell you about hatred from experience. There was a night years ago when the electricity was shut off, not for the first time. I sat in the darkness with overdue bills scattered across the table, my phone buzzing with calls from creditors I was too ashamed to answer. But that wasn't the moment that changed me. The moment came the next morning when I had to take my daughter to the social services office to apply for assistance. We sat in that waiting room that smelled of disinfectant and desperation while she colored with broken crayons, completely unaware that her father was failing at the most fundamental requirement of manhood, provision. I looked at her innocent face, and something inside me cracked open. Not sadness, rage. Not at the world or the system or my circumstances, but at myself, at the version of me that had accepted this reality, at every excuse I'd made, and every easy choice I'd taken, and every time I'd chosen comfort over discipline. In that moment, I didn't make a gentle decision to improve. I declared war, war on poverty, war on mediocrity, war on every habit and thought pattern that had led me to that plastic chair in that government office. That hatred saved my life. I used it as fuel every morning when my body wanted to sleep in, every evening when my friends were relaxing and I was working, every time I wanted to quit or give up or tell myself that this was just how life was. I fed that hatred, and it fed me, giving me energy when I had none, pushing me forward when every circumstance said to stop. And slowly, systematically, I rebuilt everything from the ground up. This is what I need you to feel right now. Not motivation, hatred. Look at your financial situation with honest eyes. Look at what you've accepted. Look at where you'll be in 5 years if nothing changes. Feel that. Let it become unbearable. And then aim that energy like a weapon at everything standing between you and freedom. But hatred without direction is just destruction. You must know precisely what to destroy and what to build. And this is where Machiavelli's wisdom becomes surgical. He understood that a prince must eliminate threats before they grow strong enough to destroy him. The same is true in your financial life. There are 4 enemies living within you right now, 4 partners of poverty that guarantee your failure. Until you identify and eliminate them, no amount of effort will save you. The first partner of poverty is sleep. Not the biological need for rest, but the spiritual disease of unconscious living. Sleep is loving comfort more than creation. It is the voice that says, just 5 more minutes when the alarm rings. It is choosing the path of least resistance in every small decision throughout the day. Sleep is scrolling instead of studying, television instead of training, comfort instead of challenge. Sleep whispers that you have time, that you'll start tomorrow, that you deserve to rest, that your effort today doesn't really matter. But here is what Machiavelli knew. Kingdoms are lost not in dramatic battles, but through accumulated neglect. A lazy prince who delays decisions, who chooses pleasure over duty, who believes tomorrow will be easier than today, wakes up one morning to find his kingdom collapsed around him. Your financial life operates identically. You are not failing because of one catastrophic mistake. You are failing because of 10,000 small choices to stay asleep. Every morning you choose the snooze button. Someone else is waking up and building the life you fantasize about. Every evening you choose the couch. Someone else is learning the skill that will make them wealthy. Every weekend you choose entertainment. Someone else is building the business that will free them. You tell yourself these small choices don't matter, that you'll make different choices tomorrow, that you're just taking a break. But you are lying to yourself. Tomorrow you will make the same choice, because the programming hasn't changed. Sleep is not rest. Sleep is surrender. What you must do is cultivate diligence, not generic hard work, because many broke people work hard. Diligence is strategic, focused, relentless effort applied to high-leverage activities. It means you identify the 3 to 5 actions that actually create wealth in your life, and you attack those actions with systematic intensity while ruthlessly eliminating everything else. For most people seeking wealth, these actions are developing high-income skills, building valuable relationships, creating systems that generate income, managing money intelligently, and maintaining the physical and mental energy to sustain effort. Everything else, all the busy work and distractions and obligations you've convinced yourself are important, must be eliminated or delegated. Diligence means tracking your hours like an accountant tracks money, because time is your only non-renewable resource. It means looking at your week and asking, what percentage of my waking hours were spent on activities that directly build wealth? For most people, the honest answer is less than 20%. If you want to be wealthy, invert that ratio. 70% wealth building, 30% everything else. This will cost you. Your friends will think you've changed. Your family will accuse you of being obsessed. People will be disappointed when you decline invitations and cancel plans and say no to things that used to fill your calendar. Let them be disappointed. Their opinion of you does not pay your bills or build your future. You are at war, and soldiers at war do not take weekends off to maintain social relationships. They focus entirely on victory. You can be social again when you've won. The second partner of poverty is gluttony, and before you dismiss this as irrelevant, understand that gluttony is not about food. Gluttony is excessive consumption of anything used to numb reality instead of transform it. Food, alcohol, drugs, television, social media, pornography, shopping, gaming, any substance or activity you use to escape rather than engage with your life. The broke person exists in a constant state of pain because their circumstances are painful, so they medicate. And while they're medicated, time passes and nothing changes. Watch what happens at the end of a typical day for someone who is broke. They come home exhausted from a job they hate, and immediately they reach for something to numb the discomfort. They eat until they're uncomfortably full. They scroll social media for hours, watching other people live. They binge-watch series, 6, 7, 8 episodes in a sitting. They drink until they're drowsy. Not because they're weak, but because facing their reality sober is unbearable, so they anesthetize themselves. And while they're numb, the evening passes, the night passes, they wake up the next morning and do it all again. This is not living. This is slow suicide. Gluttony says, you've had a hard day, you deserve this, just this once, just a little escape. What difference does one night make? And it's technically correct. One night doesn't make a difference. But it's never one night. It's a pattern, a ritual, a lifestyle. It's every night. It's every weekend. It's years of accumulated numbing that pass in a haze while your one finite life evaporates. Here's what Machiavelli would tell you. A prince who indulges excessively loses respect, first from his people, then from himself. And without self-respect, there is no possibility of power. When you overeat, overdrink, overconsume, overescape, you are telling yourself at a subconscious level that you are weak, that you cannot handle reality, that you need to be medicated just to exist. And your subconscious believes you. It adjusts your identity downward to match your behavior. You become, at your core, someone who needs to escape, and people who need to escape do not build empires. The antidote is service. When you reorient your entire existence around serving others, around solving problems, around creating genuine value in the world, you don't have time or energy for excessive self-indulgence. Service gives your life meaning beyond your own comfort. And here is the profound secret that Machiavelli understood about power. Those who serve effectively accumulate power inevitably, not because service is noble, though it may be, but because power flows to those who are needed. Think about where money exists right now. It's not sitting in a vault waiting for you to claim it. It's in someone else's pocket, and the only way it enters your pocket is if you provide something they value more than the money. This is the fundamental transaction of all economics, and it never changes. The poor focus obsessively on their own needs. I need money, I need a job, I need a break, I need help. The wealthy focus on others' needs. What problem can I solve? What pain can I eliminate? What desire can I fulfill? How can I make someone's life measurably better? This shift in focus changes everything. When you wake up thinking about your problems, you remain trapped in them. When you wake up thinking about how to solve others' problems, you start building wealth. Because money is simply stored gratitude. When you solve someone's expensive problem, they give you money as a form of stored gratitude. The bigger the problem, the more gratitude. The more people who have the problem, the more money you can generate. So look around your current environment right now. What do people constantly complain about? What inefficiencies exist? What gaps are there between what people want and what they're getting? Most people complain about these things. Wealthy people solve them. And they charge for the solution. This is not exploitation. This is service. You are making people's lives better and being compensated proportionally to the value you create. The third partner of poverty is evil, and I use that word deliberately. Evil in this context means choosing shortcuts that destroy long-term value for short-term gain. Lying to customers about what your product does. Manipulating employees into accepting less than they deserve. Cutting corners on quality to increase margins. Cheating on taxes. Stealing, scamming. Building your fortune on dishonesty and crookedness. Now, Machiavelli is often misunderstood as advocating pure ruthlessness without ethics, but read him carefully and you'll see something more nuanced. He observed that cruelty well used, applied once and decisively for the long-term stability of the kingdom, can be acceptable. But cruelty poorly used, applied repeatedly and inconsistently, destroys everything. The same principle applies to business ethics. Strategic ruthlessness in competition can be necessary, but dishonesty in transactions is always destructive. Here's why evil guarantees poverty in the long run. Wealth compounds through reputation and relationships. If you lie, cheat, and steal, you may win once, maybe twice, but you will be found out. And in the modern connected world, a destroyed reputation is a death sentence. Your customers will leave, your partners will abandon you, your employees will betray you. You will spend more energy managing lies and covering tracks than building real value. And eventually, the whole structure collapses. The broke person often romanticizes getting rich through schemes and scams because they see the wealthy and assume corruption. They think, if I'm going to join the rich, I must be corrupt like them. This is catastrophically wrong on two levels. First, most lasting wealth is built on legitimate value creation, not corruption. Yes, some wealthy people are dishonest, but dishonesty is not the source of their wealth. Second, even if corruption were universal, you specifically would be terrible at it because you lack the sophistication, connections, and resources to sustain it. The rich criminal has lawyers, accountants, and political connections. You have none of these. Your attempt at dishonest wealth will land you in prison, not in a penthouse. The alternative is wisdom, which Machiavelli defined as the ability to see things as they are and make decisions accordingly. Wisdom means understanding that integrity is not a moral luxury, but a strategic necessity in the long game of wealth building. Build your wealth on truth. Deliver what you promise. Charge fairly for real value. Treat people well, not because you're a saint, but because this is how you build the kind of wealth that lasts and grows across generations. Your word must be your bond. Your reputation must be impeccable. Your character must be solid. Not because goodness will magically attract money, but because trust is the foundation of all valuable relationships, and valuable relationships are the foundation of sustainable wealth. People will pay extra to work with someone they trust. They will refer others. They will give you the benefit of doubt when mistakes happen. They will partner with you on opportunities. Trust is your most valuable asset in business, and it takes years to build but seconds to destroy. The fourth and final partner of poverty is self-indulgence, which is different from gluttony. Gluttony numbs pain. Self-indulgence prioritizes immediate pleasure over long-term building. It's buying what you want now instead of investing in what you need later, the new phone instead of the online course, the expensive dinner instead of the emergency fund, the vacation instead of the business investment, the instant gratification instead of the delayed reward. Self-indulgence says, I work hard, I deserve to enjoy my money, life is short, you only live once, treat yourself. And all of this sounds reasonable. Life is short, you do work hard. But the question is not whether you deserve enjoyment. The question is, what actually brings you deeper, lasting enjoyment? A temporary pleasure that fades in hours, leaving you exactly where you were? Or the growing sense of power and freedom that comes from watching your net worth climb, your options expand, your dependencies decrease, your future secure. The broke person sacrifices their future for their present. The wealthy person sacrifices their present for their future, understanding that a few years of focused sacrifice creates decades of abundance. This is not about never enjoying life. It's about sequence and proportion. Build first. Enjoy from the overflow. Create the assets first. Spend the passive income later. Secure the foundation first. Decorate the house later. Machiavelli observed that fortunes change because men do not change their methods. The man who succeeds through patience and caution will fail when circumstances demand boldness. The man who succeeds through aggression will fail when circumstances demand subtlety. But the man who can delay gratification when necessary has the flexibility to adapt to any circumstance. Delayed gratification is power. It's the ability to do hard things when easy options are available. It's the ability to choose discomfort now for comfort later. The antidote to self-indulgence is business, but not in the way most people think, not a job, not trading hours for dollars. Business as a system, as an entity, as something you build that generates value independent of your direct time input. A job has a ceiling, the number of hours you can work multiplied by your hourly rate. Business has no ceiling because it multiplies your effort through systems, people, and leverage. This is where Machiavelli's political philosophy becomes directly applicable to personal wealth. A prince without an army must rely on mercenaries or allies, which makes him weak and dependent. A prince with his own army has options, which makes him powerful and free. An employee without assets must rely on an employer, which makes them vulnerable. A person with businesses and assets has options, which makes them powerful. Build your army. Build systems that generate income whether you're working or not. This could be a business with employees, digital products that sell automatically, investments that pay dividends, real estate that generates rent, intellectual property that earns royalties. The specific vehicle matters less than the principle. Your wealth must become independent of your direct labor. We have now spent considerable time identifying the enemy within: sleep, gluttony, evil, and self-indulgence. These four partners of poverty feel comfortable, justified, even righteous in the moment. But they guarantee your continued failure. To escape poverty, you must declare total war on them, not metaphorically, actually. Treat them as existential threats to everything you claim to want. Take a moment now and conduct an honest inventory. Which of these four has the strongest grip on you? Where are you most vulnerable? Because you cannot fight on all fronts simultaneously, you must identify your weakest point and fortify it first. That's where poverty is entering your life, through that specific weakness. Name it, acknowledge it, and tomorrow morning, when that weakness tries to seduce you again, you will recognize it for what it is, the enemy of your future. We have covered substantial ground. You now understand that poverty is not a money problem, but a programming problem. You understand the 3 different relationships with money, and which one you currently have. You understand that hatred, properly directed, is more powerful than motivation. You understand the 4 partners of poverty that keep you trapped. You see yourself clearly now, perhaps for the first time, without the comfortable lies you've been telling yourself. But understanding the disease is not the same as curing it. Diagnosis without treatment is just educated suffering. You can know everything I've shared and still remain exactly where you are if you don't apply the solution with equal intensity. So now we turn to something more demanding, more transformative. We move from defense to offense, from preventing poverty to actively constructing wealth. And this requires knowledge of a different order entirely. Because what most people don't realize is this: preventing poverty and building wealth are not the same skill. You can avoid the 4 partners of poverty and still remain middle class forever, comfortable but not free, stable but not powerful. We're not here for comfortable. We're here for complete transformation. What follows are the advanced principles that don't just keep you from falling, but actively elevate you. These are not tips or techniques. These are fundamental reorientations of how you see yourself, your capabilities, and your role in the economic ecosystem. If you apply these with the same intensity that poverty applied its lessons to you, you will become unrecognizable within 2 years. The first principle is that wealth is attracted to those who understand its true function. Money is not an end. Money is concentrated power, compressed time, stored options. When you have money, you have the power to shape reality according to your will. You have time because you're not forced to trade every hour for survival. You have options because you can say yes to opportunities and no to obligations. This is what the wealthy understand that the poor and middle class do not. Money is a tool for expanding agency and autonomy. Therefore, the question is never, how do I get more money? The question is, how do I expand my agency? And the answer is always the same: by developing the ability to create value that others will pay for. This is the master key that unlocks everything. Value creation, not manipulation, not trickery, not taking advantage. Creating something that genuinely improves someone's life in a measurable way and being compensated proportionally. In today's economy, value creation takes many forms. You can solve problems directly through services. You can create products that eliminate friction. You can build platforms that connect buyers and sellers. You can generate content that educates or entertains. You can develop technology that increases efficiency. You can provide experiences that create memories. The specific form matters less than the principle. Someone's life must be measurably better after interacting with what you've created, and they must recognize that improvement enough to pay for it. Here is your first advanced directive. Identify one expensive problem that you have the knowledge, skill, or ability to solve. Not 5 problems. 1. An expensive problem is one that causes significant pain, costs significant money, or prevents significant gain. The more expensive the problem, the more you can charge. Corporate training is more expensive than personal tutoring because the problem is more expensive. Brain surgery is more expensive than massage because the problem is more expensive. Find an expensive problem within your current skill set or within your ability to learn. Then, spend the next 90 days becoming the go-to expert for solving that specific problem. This doesn't mean being the world's best. It means being the best option available to your specific target market. Study everything about this problem. Interview people who have it. Understand their exact pain points, their language, their failed attempts at solving it. Position yourself as the specialist who understands their problem better than anyone else. Create content demonstrating your expertise. Build case studies. Offer your solution, and charge accordingly. The second advanced principle is that wealth multiplies through systems and leverage. If you are trading your time directly for money, you are in a trap, regardless of your hourly rate. A lawyer billing $800 per hour is in a more expensive trap than a factory worker making $20 per hour, but it's still a trap. Because time is finite. There are only so many billable hours. The ceiling is visible. Wealthy people understand that real wealth comes from owning systems that generate value using other people's time, other people's money, other people's resources. This is not exploitation. This is intelligent design. When you build a business that employs 10 people, those 10 people are creating value, customers are paying for that value, and you're capturing a percentage of that value creation. Everyone benefits. Your employees have jobs. Your customers have solutions. You have income that exceeds your direct labor. This is what Machiavelli meant when he emphasized the importance of building institutions. A prince who rules through personal charisma will lose power when he loses charisma. A prince who builds institutions, laws, systems, traditions will have power that outlives him. Your business must become an institution. Your wealth must be systematized. Create something that operates according to principles and processes rather than your constant personal intervention. Here is your directive. Whatever you currently do to make money, ask yourself how you can systematize it. If you're a freelance designer, how can you build a design agency? If you're a consultant, how can you create a training program that scales? If you're a skilled tradesperson, how can you build a company that employs other tradespeople? If you're an employee, how can you start a side business that gradually reduces your dependence on your employer? The specific path matters less than the principle. You must build equity in something that has value independent of your hourly labor. The third advanced principle is that your network is your net worth. Machiavelli was obsessed with alliances, with understanding who held power, who could be trusted, who could be leveraged. He knew that a prince's power was determined not just by his own capabilities, but by the relationships he cultivated. The same is true for wealth. Every significant opportunity in your life will come through a relationship. Every major deal, every key hire, every valuable piece of advice, every door that opens. But most people are terrible at building valuable relationships because they approach networking transactionally. They go to events, collect business cards, send generic LinkedIn requests, and wonder why nothing happens. This is not networking. This is box checking. Real relationship building is about providing value first, consistently, without immediate expectation of return. Identify 10 to 20 people who are where you want to be or who have access to opportunities you want. Study them. Understand their challenges, their goals, their needs. Then, systematically provide value to them. Share useful articles. Make valuable introductions. Solve small problems for free. Promote their work. Support their projects. Be genuinely helpful. Do this consistently for months without asking for anything. You are making deposits in the relationship bank. And when the time comes that you need something, when you're ready to ask, you'll have the credibility and goodwill to ask. Here is what Machiavelli knew. Generosity creates obligation. When you help someone significantly, especially when you had no obligation to do so, you create a psychological debt. They will remember. They will want to reciprocate. They will think of you when opportunities arise. This is not manipulation. If you're genuinely helpful, and if you're providing real value, this is just understanding how human psychology works and operating accordingly. Your directive: identify 5 people who are 2 to 3 levels above you in wealth, influence, or opportunity. Not 10 levels, not equals. People who are reachable but elevated. Study them intensely. Find ways to provide value to them. And over the next 6 months, build genuine relationships. Your financial future will likely emerge from one of these relationships. The fourth advanced principle is that speed is power in the modern economy. Machiavelli observed that fortune favors the bold, and that he who hesitates is lost. In his time, the prince who could make decisions quickly and act decisively had massive advantages. In our time, the individual who can move from idea to execution faster than their competition has nearly insurmountable advantages. Most people spend their entire lives in preparation. They're getting ready to start. They're waiting for perfect conditions. They're planning and researching and consuming information. And while they're preparing, someone else with less knowledge but more speed is executing, learning from real feedback, iterating, improving, and capturing the market. Speed beats perfection because speed generates data and data generates improvement. This is particularly true in the digital economy, where the cost of starting is near zero and the cost of iteration is minimal. You can launch a website in a day, test a product in a week, build an audience in months. But only if you move, only if you accept that your first attempt will be imperfect and launch anyway. Machiavelli would tell you that the prince who waits for perfect conditions will never act, because perfect conditions never arrive. Your directive: stop planning and start executing. Whatever business or project or skill development you've been thinking about, give yourself 1 week to launch a minimally viable version. Not perfect, not complete. Minimally viable. A landing page, a prototype, a first video, an initial offer, something real that exists in the world that can generate feedback. Then iterate based on real data rather than imagined scenarios. The fifth advanced principle is that energy management is more important than time management. Everyone has the same 24 hours, but not everyone has the same energy. The person with high physical vitality, mental clarity, and emotional stability will accomplish in 4 hours what the depleted person cannot accomplish in 12. Therefore, wealth building begins with energy optimization. This means treating your body like the high-performance machine it is. Sleep 8 hours consistently. Eat food that enhances rather than depletes energy. Exercise intensely enough to build physical reserves. Eliminate substances that create energy debt, excessive alcohol, processed foods, sugar, stimulants you need because you're not sleeping enough. Protect your morning hours for high cognitive tasks when your mental energy is highest. Batch similar tasks to reduce transition costs. Take strategic breaks to prevent depletion. Machiavelli would have understood this intuitively. A prince who is physically weak, mentally foggy, and emotionally unstable will make poor decisions that cost him his kingdom. Your financial kingdom requires you to be in peak condition. You cannot outwork your competition if you're exhausted. You cannot outthink your competition if your brain is inflamed from poor diet. You cannot persist through difficulties if your emotional reserves are depleted. Your directive: conduct an energy audit. For 1 week, track your energy levels every hour from 1 to 10. Identify what activities, foods, people, and environments increase your energy versus decrease it. Then, ruthlessly optimize. Eliminate energy drains. Add energy sources. Your productivity will multiply not because you're working more hours, but because the hours you work are vastly more effective. We are now approaching the culmination of everything we've discussed. You have the knowledge. You have the framework. You have the specific directives. But knowledge without commitment is just entertainment. You can absorb everything in this video, feel momentarily inspired, and return to exactly the same life by tomorrow. This happens to 95% of people. They consume, agree, and do nothing. Or you can be different. Here is what I need you to do, and this is not optional if you're serious. I need you to make a public commitment. Right now, in the comment section below, type these exact words: I will never be broke again. Not I hope, not I want. Not I'll try. A declaration, a line in the sand, a commitment witnessed by others that you will look back on years from now as the moment everything changed. Why public? Because private decisions are easy to break. When you declare something publicly, you create social accountability. You create a stake in the ground. You create a version of yourself that your current self must now live up to or live down from. Machiavelli understood that men are bound by their public commitments in ways they are not bound by their private thoughts. When you declare something publicly, you are creating psychological pressure that will sustain you when motivation fades. So pause this video, go to the comments, type those 6 words, "I will never be broke again." Hit send, then come back. Do it now. Because if you're not willing to type 6 words, you're definitely not willing to do the hard work that follows. And if that's true, you might as well stop watching now and save yourself time. For those who did it, welcome to the other side. You just did something that 95% of people won't do. You created the first crack in your old identity. Now the real work begins. Your old programming will fight you. Your environment will resist. Your habits will pull you back. This is normal. This is expected. Every person who has ever transformed financially has faced this resistance. The difference between those who succeed and those who fail is not the presence of resistance, but the response to it. Here is your action plan for the next 30 days. First, conduct your activity audit. Track every hour of every day for 1 week. Categorize each activity as wealth-generating or wealth-consuming. This will shock you into awareness of how much time you're wasting. Second, identify which partner of poverty has the strongest hold on you and design one specific counter-habit. Third, identify one expensive problem you can solve and spend 30 days positioning yourself as the go-to solution. Fourth, begin building one system that can generate income independent of your time. Fifth, identify 5 elevated relationships and begin providing value to them. These 5 actions, implemented with consistency for 30 days, will begin your transformation, not complete it. Begin it. Around day 12, you'll want to quit. The novelty will wear off. The old patterns will feel comfortable. You'll rationalize. This is the moment that separates those who change from those who merely talk about change. Remember that hatred. Remember the promise. Use it as fuel. 5 years from now, you will either look back at this moment as the turning point, or you will still be consuming content about escaping poverty while remaining exactly where you are. The difference is not information. You have the information. The difference is decision and action. Machiavelli wrote that fortune is the arbiter of half our actions, but she leaves the other half to be governed by us. You cannot control the economy or your past, but you absolutely control what you do next. And what you do next determines everything. What will you do? Will you close this video, feel momentarily inspired, and return to the same patterns? Or will you take everything you've learned and transform it into relentless action? The choice has always been yours. Make it count. Don't forget to give a like or a hype and subscribe to the channel. Watch the next video to complete everything you just learned.